Welcome to Flex Life Fi, the podcast about investing, business, and financial independence.
And life.
And life. All right, so this is episode number 3. This is us interviewing each other, and today is Suzanne's turn in the hot seat.
That's me.
And we are going kind of about our investments and how we're kind of going about our philosophies and how we kind of got started and what we're kind of going towards and what we're working towards. So, where did you get started?
Well, first of all, I want to say that it's never too late to get started in doing a different philosophy and making money or investments, that sort of thing. I am 9 years older than you.
No.
Yes. And my best friend died in 2018. And she had worked for the government in a area of the government that they got rid of. And she knew that they were going to need that product or service or whatever. So she opened her own company. She became a woman-owned business, recognized for being an up-and-coming ink business that she had to attend. She had to pay $800 a person to attend to recognize this. Speaking of business,
it sounds like something that might be happening in the government right now.
Yeah, so look for the things you know about is what I'm saying. And I had always wanted to invest in real estate. And my husband, Bill, had worked for the state of Missouri, and he had invested in a small pension, for the amount of years that he was in. The reason it would be small is because he only stayed there 5 years, and he relocated so that I could attend anesthesia school at a different state. So when we relocated, he went with the railroad, so he would have a railroad type of retirement. And I'm like, well, I make money now, but what's it going to be?
So this was 9 years ago?
No, it was 7 years ago, actually.
So 7 years ago, you were 45?
No, I was a little bit older than 45.
Okay.
I'm supposed to ask women.
No, I'm just trying to make sure you're around 45, 46.
No, I was the same age. My friend was older, so she had started her business at 48, and I started at like 47. So,
okay.
When she passed away suddenly, I said, it's time to get busy. So I told Bill I wanted to invest in real estate. So for me to be comfortable with it, I had listened to podcasts for maybe a year and a half, mainly on YouTube and Bigger Pockets and that sort of thing, and wanted to learn people's mistakes. It was a free education.
Now, was this before we met?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was in 2018. She passed away. And we had a lot of similarities, and our husbands got along well, and we traveled internationally, and we talked about business. And she was my mentor, so to speak. So I'm like, it's Shawshank Redemption says, get busy living or get busy dying. So I needed to go on and be successful and at least try something. So my philosophy became, okay, I don't have the money right now sitting around in my bank account to invest in real estate. So how could I invest in real estate? So I took an old 401k, rolled it over into a solo 401k, and at my friend's funeral, one of our became a mutual friend. She always wanted us to meet, but we didn't meet till her funeral. She was a real estate person in where I wanted to invest. And my philosophy...
She was a broker, right? Or
no,
agent?
just agent. And I thought, well, East Coast and West Coast are expensive. Does that make sense? I double coasted.
Yeah, East and West, just too expensive, right?
Expensive.
Out of the price range?
Yeah, I couldn't afford that. So I didn't have that much money saved. So I thought, well, how about the Gulf Coast? I had watched my friend, same one, buy property and sell it and make money every single time. So I'm like, I want to buy something and hold it. Like we were talking about on the last podcast was buy and hold. So I rolled an old 401k, and Bill took some money from working for the state of Missouri in that 5 years.
Right.
And rolled it with me And so we purchased a property in a gated community in around the Gulf area in Alabama because we were familiar with it, and we had vacation there. And I thought, well, we'll want to go check on it and look at it and make sure, if we got to handle something, buy it, sell it, etc. We'll get to go to the coast. So.
And the solo 401k is a way that you can invest in other things, not just
real estate,
stocks,
yeah.
Right?
No, you don't have to do stocks. You don't have to do real estate. This is called a checkbook 401k. So Bill and I are the trustees, and when we write out a check, you can't help up or down in the lineage. So I couldn't help my parents, or if I had grandparents still alive, can't help my kids or my grandkids. So I can't buy my kid a property so that he doesn't have to pay a college dorm. But we could rent it laterally. We could go sideways and help sister-in-law, brother-in-law, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Not saying help them, but I mean we could buy a property and rent it to them.
Okay.
They don't feel like it's one of the rules of the solo 401k is you cannot. They know you wouldn't make the best decisions, I guess. Let's put it that way. If you could save your kids some money or whatever. And this is supposed to be with your retirement. So we took the money, and there's only certain banks that give solo 401k loans. So we found a bank in Kansas City called North American Savings Bank, and they give 401k loans. And I just talked to them yesterday about another possible investment, and it's 35% down, but that's coming out of your retirement money. So I didn't have to come up anything out of pocket. And so we wrote the check and bought the property. And by the time I bought the property, I had a great second tenant qualified. She was moving to that area to be the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce. And so she had a great income. And I'm like, yeah, let me, how do I get a second property? Where do I come up with the money? So our real estate agent said, are you guys thinking about you want to move down here? Because maybe you could buy it as a...
This is really close to when we met, because you were talking about this when we met in Texas.
Well, that was a year and a half before we met.
Okay.
So it was pretty fresh. So and then when we met, I only had the 3 properties. So we ended up buying, long story short, 3 properties in the same subdivision, which is a gated community. And it was, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to call people to fix things. So we bought it in a brand new subdivision. It was over halfway built out. So nobody wants to live next to construction. But I didn't mind if my renters lived next to construction.
And they probably appreciated a nice new neighborhood, things that were all
amenities.
Yeah.
Saltwater pool.
And everything gym. That's brand new.
Right. Super. And it came with a warranty. So if anything broke, even the appliances that it came with, it was crazy, is we called the warranty company and they would come out and fix it. So.
Well, and they're all still there, taking care of all the other places.
Right. Yeah. So it worked out good for us. We bought 3 properties. The first one we put 35% down. The purchase price was $229. The second one we put down 10%, and then the third one we put down 20%. And I ended up borrowing money out of Bill's retirement because he saw how I was getting these rented and at a great rate. And my philosophy was, if these get paid off in the next 15 years, since I was over 45, then the HOA, the insurance, and the taxes would come up to about, at the time, about $300 a month. It's probably around $450 now. But the HOAs are very low, and they plan on staying low, hopefully, knock on wood. And we would have about $1,500 a month cash flow out of each property. So that would be a $4,500. You take those 3 properties, yeah. $1,500 in those days dollars, yeah, would be about a $4,500 a month, quote unquote, type pension.
Yeah.
So we still have, like, one renter is our original renter there from 2018.
Awesome.
So this July they'll be there 7 years. And then a lady we have in another one of the properties, the Chamber of Commerce lady moved out, and we moved in a renal dietitian, and she's been there 5 or 6 years, hadn't she, Bill?
Yep.
And the third property, they ended up buying that property from us, and John and I were in the Virgin Islands,
Mm-hmm.
and I found 4 duplexes, and what we did is we sold that one property, took the equity, which was already at $155,000, and rolled it in to buy 4 duplexes, and they
Mhm.
were all 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or bigger,
Right.
and so that one kind of gave birth to 8.
Yeah.
So
You remember what I said?
what? No,
You don't remember what I said?
no. You told me I better get off my butt and
I
make an
said,
offer.
well, if you don't try, you'll never get them.
Exactly. So we were in the process of selling our home in Missouri at the time, and I thought,
Oh, well, who knows? I don't know if it'll happen, or
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
I
it
should
was
try.
and he, with his pushing and prodding
Well-
and encouraging and tons of paperwork of, you got to provide all your mortgages, your taxes, your insurance, all your statements and stuff.
So many times in life and in business, a lot of times it's persistence, it seems.
Yeah.
And a lot of, if you don't go for it and if you don't try, you'll
was
never
scared.
know
I was scared.
if it's going to happen.
Right.
You know, a lot of times I say, oh, I don't think I could do that, or I don't think it'll happen. And you're like, well, if you don't actually go for it, you'll never know. And you're not going to
You
do
miss
it.
out. You
You're
miss
going to
out.
miss out.
So
So-
part of my philosophy again was, if these 3 properties are paid off in 15 years, hopefully they would appreciate from the purchase price of $229 to about $330.
Mm-hmm.
So why not have somebody else put money into my retirement for me? Now, we didn't buy all of these with our retirement, but I was kind of looking at this as a retirement option for us, is to bring in some extra income. So I'm like, we'll have $4,500 a month in income when they're all 3 rented, and they all stay rented, and we basically, it's like, we get asked all the time when we're renting the duplexes, do you have a house available? We could rent these all day long in a gated community with a 2-car garage. People are like, yeah, sign me up. But
You know what one of the upcoming episodes is going to be?
what?
When to lever up and when to pivot or do something
That's
different.
a great idea.
Yeah, it kind of goes along with what you're just talking about.
But I thought if they appreciate to $333 a piece, then somebody else has bought me $1 million worth of real estate.
And somebody just doubled your retirement by changing one house to 3 duplexes.
4
duplexes.
4 duplexes. It started out as 3 duplexes. He was right. And then somebody backed out on one of the duplexes. We ended up getting a 4-bedroom, 2-bath duplex.
Right.
And it turned into 4 duplexes. So, yeah, now, we have 10 rentals down there because we have the 4 duplexes, so we have 8 there, and then we have the 2 long-term in the gated community. And so I kind of got stuck after those first 3 houses, and I'm like, I don't see how I'm gonna ever be able to level up.
Right.
So
But that just doubled and or tripled your retirement.
at least, But income wise, it's probably more than that because you have 10 rentals instead of 3 rentals.
And it diversified your numbers to where if you lost one tenant, you didn't lose a third of it.
Right.
But you, in the meantime, also bought one more place, right?
Well,
Or 2 more by virtue of your hotel, right?
yeah, we ended up buying another property in St. Charles, Missouri. But that was a Bill thing. We'll have to talk about that. That's
That's a whole nother deal.
That's a whole nother can of worms.
All right. Well, another business, another time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's Airbnb more. This is your long term all in down on the Gulf Coast. But yeah, somebody else is now gonna be paying for monthly income. And the properties have appreciated already over 333. Now inflation has went up as well, but all the properties are sitting at around 370 each.
No.
The gated community one.
No, I talked about making mine more of a legacy and saying that, I don't know that I'm going to sell, but if I do sell, it might be to continue on or kind of continue in a business or some other sense of work. Do you see yourself like selling and going to a different type of portfolio, or do you see yourself like continuing on or having other managers, or how do you plan to?
Well, our two options are either we've had property managers, and we were basically still doing it. We were still making all the decisions and all that kind of thing. And the reason we needed the property managers is we renovated the duplexes before we moved tenants in. That
Right.
If they were vacant, we went ahead and upgraded everything, put in new kitchens, new bathrooms, that sort of thing. So
Mhm.
we put in a lot of sweat equity. But we had a property manager, and when she decided to retire, we decided not to replace her. But one option would be hire a property manager again,
Mm-hmm.
and those run anywhere 8 to 12% where we're at down there.
Right.
And so they charge a placement fee when they place new tenants. These are all 1 year lease or greater. And the other option would be, do we sell off our portfolio, which sounds like it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal, but a portfolio, but all the rentals, and go back into the stock market. I will tell you that this is the difference. It might have been just timing or whatever. You don't know when you buy. I thought I missed the ship.
Right.
I thought, real estate's on the rise. It's going up, that sort of thing. But what we took and we invested in 3 to 4 years' time, we ended up quadrupling our, if you did a personal financial statement. So
Yeah.
our net worth
Yeah.
is the words I'm looking for. But we ended up, and we had,
In addition to cash flow.
cash flow. Somebody else is putting money in our retirement. We ended up taking that first property that I bought with our
Right.
retirement and flipping it out to a Roth account. So when we sell
So
it,
now you have tax-free retirement
tax-free
too.
money. So we're kind of been learning as we go. So option number one for getting out of this eventually would be more passive, if you want to
Right.
call it that, would be index funds, is we've talked about, or
Right.
just putting it with a management.
You've also had some great tax benefits along the way too,
Right.
with all of the
Depreciation
depreciation and
and-
cost segregation,
Correct.
that kind of thing.
Correct. But my thing is, I don't buy a property unless I would be willing to live there. So
Right.
it's got to be, I'm not saying nice, but I want it to be clean, and I want it to be in a nice area of town.
Right.
And I want it to be like,
You know
Like-
that we've lived in two of our properties.
yes.
Yeah. They're not nearly as nice as the ones that you have.
I don't know
And
about
I've
that.
yet to, I've lived in two of ours. So
But yeah, I want to be able to say that I would live there personally, and then I want to provide safe, affordable housing for somebody else.
well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about us and what we have and our properties and a little bit of our philosophy on where we are and what we're doing. But as far as the Flex Life Fi and business and our financial oh my gosh,
Sky's the limit.
yeah. So
It's what you're willing to learn, and you can get a free education on podcast. You can watch YouTube videos. You can see where other people made their mistakes. You can collaborate with a friend and say, "What do you think about this, John?" And John and I have bounced a lot of ideas off of this.
oh, we've gone through so many businesses and so many ideas of what we're going to do and what's going to happen in the next couple of years. But I think financial independence and success, I think it's definitely a bumpy road. I don't think there's only one way to do it.
No.
And I think that there's many ways for different people. So what we're doing may not be right for everybody. And I don't think where we started, because we started a little bit later in life. I know I started much later and you started even later than I did. I think if we had gone the work yourself and put it in the stock market the way that the 20-year-olds are doing it, I don't think we'd
Not
have gotten
everybody.
there.
Not everybody.
I know I would not have gotten there that route.
Well, I heard somebody say that you need to um, you need to have a way where you make money without you having to go to work. So it works. So Bill and I are leaving a month from today, maybe, and going on a 2-week cruise to Europe, and then we're going to be in Spain and France for 2 weeks, just kind of kicking around. And like I brought up on the last podcast, is we'll still have income coming in from our real estate investments
Absolutely.
without having to worry about, hey, I got to hurry back and get to work.
Absolutely.
And doing locum through anesthesia is we can kind of pick and choose when we work
Right.
and how much we work. And we've been in this group here where we're at now for about 3 years, and so we make our own schedules. And so a lot of last summer I took time off because we were working on the property in St. Charles,
Yeah.
and I was able to come out here some, and I was able to work some in Missouri. So it's just more flexible, I guess.
Flex Life.
Flex life.
All right, for financial independence, Flex Life I.
All
This
right.
is episode 3.
We'll see you next time. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.